I still can't believe the hogwash I just watched. I thought The Weeknd would never have something as bad as The Idol under his belt when it came to acting credits. How wrong I was. His new movie with Jenna Ortega just came out, Hurry Up Tomorrow. It debuted with a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's a very accurate score. This film is so bad. I cannot even believe they released it. It is truly a film that is meant only for the most diehard Weeknd fans to do their absolute best to cope with and defend. Because there's no one else who's going to watch this and enjoy it, I don't think. Like, I'm not even just trying to be a Scrooge about it. This is just straight up textbook turbo ass. I wrote some notes while watching it. That's how you know it was bad. And I'd like to go over it here. There's going to be spoilers. If you can even spoil something like this. This is like spoiling a pile of dog shit. Like, there's only so much damage you could do to it and so much you could ruin about it. You know what I mean? This film wants so badly to be taken seriously. Like, trying to command the utmost respect. It tries to be artsy. It tries to be pretentious. It tries to deliver creative shots, but it can't do it. It's all so flat. So when it tries to make creative shots or be like cinematography, like try to be interesting from a cinematography standpoint, it just fails. The one shot that it uses like at least 30 times as a way of trying to be a little unique and quirky is it just spins the camera around rapidly really quick. So it'll do like a bunch of 360 hero shots of The Weeknd as he's just like staring at something, like having some kind of stunning revelation, or it'll spin really, really fast and then start blurring the screen. They do that no less than 10-15 times for some of these shots. That is their go-to bread and butter. It's not an interesting shot. It's disorienting. And it doesn't do anything. It's just fucking stupid. But that's really the whole film in a nutshell. Everything about it is stupid while trying to be deep. Anyway, enough foreplay. Let's get into it here. A lot of the film feels like it's just promotional material for The Weeknd's new music. Like, it really feels like a large chunk of this is you're just listening to a Weeknd concert, which is why I said it feels like it's just meant for Weeknd fans and nobody else. Like, they'll probably be happy just to hear the songs and then just defend the movie for that reason alone. I also like some of The Weeknd's music. You know what I don't like? Having my fucking time wasted. If I wanted to watch a Weeknd concert, I'd watch a video of it on YouTube or get tickets to go see it my fucking self. I don't want to sit here and watch a movie that's like a pseudo-intellectual take on Weeknd music. That's not fun. It really felt like it was just an advertisement for his music. So he plays himself. It is a self-insert. And Jenna Ortega plays a troubled fan. So the very first scene, outside of like the introduction, the very first scene is The Weeknd blowing a raspberry at the camera. I'm not kidding. That is actually the first scene. He just goes, and he does that for like actually 3 minutes. Now he's not staring down the pipe here of the camera. He's looking in the mirror doing this. And I understand this is a real vocal warm-up exercise doing that and just that kind of thing. But do you know how fucking dumb that is to start this movie with that? So anyway, he then continues all of his like pre-performance rituals. He's on a tour, so he's about to do a big performance, and he does. He does a whole song, and we get to watch it. Yippee. It is the whole song we watch. And then we get his next performance, and he's really angry about this breakup, so he's leaving an emotionally charged voicemail. He wants to cancel this one because he is not in a state to perform. His voice is all kind of, cattywampus, damaged, and he doesn't want to, like, hurt it further. And he's just really down in the dumps over this breakup. His heart's broken. But his manager, he doesn't let him. He forces him to do it. So he gets himself all hyped up. He gets, alcohol in his system. He gets, ripped and roaring, leaves another, like, yelling, angry voicemail. You bitch! You're gonna be forgotten, but I'm a fucking legend. I'm The Weeknd, damn it. And then he goes out there and he eats shit. It is a bad performance. He is off his gourd, out of his mind. And that's when he locks eyes with Jenna Ortega. Now, Jenna Ortega, we saw in a previous scene, light a house on fire and then drive away. We don't know why she did that yet, but that's what we've seen, and now she's at the Weeknd concert. They lock eyes, and they immediately have a spark, a connection. He then storms off the stage because he's just not ready to perform. He's all pissed off at his manager, so he's evacuating. Jenna Ortega, I'm calling her by her actual name because I don't even know what her character's name is in this movie. I don't think they said it. I think he maybe said something that sounded like Annie once, so maybe that's it. I also don't feel like looking it up either. It's just, if you can't even tell me a character's name and make it stick, then something has already gone awry. So Jenna hops the railing and then finds him backstage. They bump into each other, and then he says, "Do you want to come with me?" She says yes, and then they go on a date. They play air hockey and then ride scooters and then go back to his hotel together. It is a really uncomfortable series of scenes because, like, in the car, he's already crying. I shit you not, I feel like The Weeknd made this film just to prove he can cry on camera, because in every scene he is tearing up and crying. Like, I can't think of a scene that went by that didn't have him with tears in his fucking eyes, eating some French fries. Like, it is unbelievable how many times he is crying. So he's even crying, like, on this date, and then they eventually go back to his hotel room, and he plays her a song, an unreleased track. He's like, "I want to show you this." So he plays a song, and I wrote down some of the lyrics here, at least the ones that I could hear. It goes, "Trying to fill this hole my father left so no one else abandons me. My mother." I missed some lyrics here or something, but it goes like, "Mama, I'm sorry." It says it again, like, "Mama, I'm sorry. I hope that I find what I'm looking for." And he plays this whole fucking song, by the way. This movie has such a problem of just dragging these scenes out to an agonizingly long duration that it is so uncomfortable. Like, he plays like a full fucking 4-minute song for her, and then she's tearing up about it too. Like, God. Like, you can get the point across with only like a minute, maybe. You don't need to play the entire discography. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just so unnecessarily long. So she starts crying, and then she's trauma dumping about how this song really touched her, and like how she can relate to it so strongly because her dad also wasn't there for her, and her mother was struggling. So this connection is so powerful. It's such a strong bond. They fuck. And it's a really artsy sex scene. Like, you don't actually see sex, but you see like shapes that resemble something sexual, maybe. I don't know. It's a series of stupid shots. It's like liquid silk moving around. And like, it honestly looked like bowling balls for a little minute there on screen, just like going by. Like, it's a weird scene. But they have sex. And then the next morning, The Weeknd's pretty callous towards her. He's talking about how he needs to go to the next stop on his tour. And she's like, "Well, take me with you. I want to go to Australia," which is where the next one is. And he's like, "No. This was fun, but bye-bye. Godspeed. Good to see you. This was a great time. I don't want anything more with this." And now Jenna Ortega has already received a call from her mother, who is very upset about her burning down the house. And she's already like upset because of that. And then The Weeknd's saying these things, and it hurts her. So she's like, "Well, you said you needed me last night. You don't ever want me to leave, and now you're leaving. This is ridiculous." And this is what has led to that viral clip that I know is floating around from this film, where The Weeknd, in the most unenthusiastic tone ever, goes, "Shut the fuck up. God, oh my God, shut the fuck up." Like, it's become like a viral clip because he has this rant in the film where it actually sounds like the first take, like the actual line reading that they just said, "That's good enough." It is terrible. Like, it is some of the worst acting you'll see on the big screen. I'm shocked that it is in here. So he's doing this rant about like how ridiculous she's being, and she needs to just like keep her mouth shut. Like, this is stupid. We don't even know each other. Maybe I'll call you, but who cares? Boo hoo. Like, oh, now you're all upset. So he's just being a douchebag. And he literally sounds the same way I sound when I get like a bad teammate in Marvel Rivals, where I'm a little annoyed. And this is supposed to be like a really emotional scene, but it is comical with how it's delivered. So then, after he has this whole rant at her, he then turns his back to leave, and she hits him in the back of the head and knocks him out. It's literally like out of Courage the Cowardly Dog when Muriel hits Eustace with like a fucking frying pan or something. So she now assaults him, knocks him out, and then ties him to the bed. While he's like in this ethereal state after getting a concussion, he like goes to hell. So he's like all alone in this version of the hotel, and he's now like wandering these like catacombs or like this big dark empty tunnel, and then he sees like a woman who's crouched, and then she goes like boo, and it's a big jump scare moment, and it scares the Weeknd, and it's supposed to startle the audience, and now it becomes like a pseudo horror film. Oh my god, it's so dumb. I can't express to you how stupid it is. Like it really is just, what were they thinking? What were they thinking? And then he like goes to a fire, and then there's like a kid there. I'm assuming it's all supposed to be like very metaphorical and full of symbolism. I'll get into a take I've seen on the film that I think might be what they were going for, but absolutely failed to like deliver. But I'll get to that in a moment. But after he awakes from that like nightmare, he's tied to the bed, and Jenna Ortega wants him to be honest about like what his music means, you know? Like, he's fucked so many girls, but they're just numbers to him, except for this one girl that was really special. So then what she does, this is actually like pivotal to the film, and it goes on for probably close to 25 minutes. It's like the major chunk of the runtime. She goes through like 3 of his songs. One of them is Blinded by the Light. And she just dances to the songs and then gives like a genius lyric breakdown of what it means. So she tries to soul read him, like Blinded by the Light is like your most honest song. It's like a very strong sense, or a very strong look into what you feel. And it's about this one girl who wasn't just a number to you, she was special, but you hurt her. You were toxic to her, and she broke your heart, and now it's breaking you, and you're writing about it in the song, and I can feel it in your music. And she's just like, now be honest with me, and I'll untie you, I'll let you go. You're toxic, right? And he doesn't play ball with it, but he starts crying. And she's like, okay, another song then. She does the same thing. She dances to it for a while. The fucking whole song plays for the most part. Like, it is, the majority of the song plays. It is so unnecessary. So she's dancing to it, and she like breaks down the lyrics again, like, no, it's time to be honest. Maybe you're the toxic person. She's not toxic, right? So she just keeps berating him and like grilling him, going on and on about this. And during this sequence, 3 people left the theater. Over the course of like this, like maybe like 10-minute chunk while she was doing a couple of the songs, 3 separate people walked out of the movie. It's just not a good film. Like, there is nothing here to enjoy. I just wanted to make mention of that. So she continues to go through all of that, and then as she's like, you know, piercing, and it seems like he's about to start being honest with her, his manager shows up. He's banging on the door. He tracked the phone. He knows he's there, and Jenna answers the phone, or answers the door, tries to shoo him away, but he kicks the door in. Then the two get into a big scuffle, and it ends with her stabbing him in the neck, killing him. And then the Weeknd, of course, sees the dead body, and she's covered in blood. So his manager's dead. She killed his manager, and now she's crying again. And the Weeknd's been crying like this whole time, so this is nothing new, but he's also crying. She starts pouring gasoline on him, like we saw in the first scene where she poured gasoline on the house. Now she's doing that to him, and then she's holding the lighter over him, about to light him on fire, killing him. Well, he's closes his eyes, and he's accepting his fate. He's coming to terms with everything, and he breaks out into a song. He breaks out into the I'm Sorry song. It's a song all about apologizing and like trying to be honest. I wrote down a couple of the lyrics here as well. He keeps repeating, "Mama, I'm sorry. Mama, I'm sorry. Now I'll burn for the way I treated you," or something. I didn't write them down verbatim, but it was the most like cringe, like almost fanfic level garbage. He breaks out into this song, and this song is like, it's longer than Freebird. It goes for so long. Sitting there covered in gasoline with her with a lighter over him. He's singing for so long, and it moves her so much, she decides not to light him on fire. She unties him. She lights the bed on fire, lights the whole apartment on fire. The Weeknd walks out. We don't see Jenna Ortega again. He walks out, and then he's looking at himself in the mirror as he exits the hallway, and he's getting ready for his next performance. The end. Pretty abrupt ending. Roll credits. It sucks. It really sucks. Now, I believe there's supposed to be a deeper message with all of this. I don't think it lands, and I have seen a theory that talks about it that I think is probably the closest we'll get. Jenna Ortega's character, most likely, I would think after watching this, was not a real person. I think it was a manifestation of the Weeknd's feelings about himself with the way that the relationship that actually meant something to him ended. And how Jenna Ortega is here trying to get through to him that he was the reason that the only good thing in his life, like the only positive person and positive relationship that he's ever let in, is now gone. It was him being toxic, and Jenna Ortega was meant to be that force to get it through to him. But she wasn't a real character or anything, and what happened in that hotel room wasn't real, so like the burning of it was like symbolic of him burning it to the ground and moving forward. I think that's probably right, but I also think there's an equal chance that it's not even fucking close, and this film is just surface level. Everything you see is what you get. I think there's a very real chance of that being it too. I feel like this could just be true cope, where people have now written something that can almost make sense in the context of this messy dog shit film. And if I was involved with the writing of this, I would latch on to this theory, because it does fit to a certain extent. There are some inconsistencies and some plot holes if this actually is what they were going for, but it does kind of still fit, and it makes it a little more, like pinky out, artsy. But it doesn't make the movie any better, even if that is what it's actually supposed to mean and represent. It's still a bad film. There is still nothing to like about the film, and no reason to care about The Weeknd in the first place in this movie. He's not even really a character. He is actually just performing the vast majority of this movie. He's really not doing anything or getting fleshed out or giving you any reason to get invested in anything you're watching. It's just a waste of time. It is so flat. So I am not surprised this film is getting slammed. It sucks. It is easily the worst film of the year right now. So yeah, I just want to talk about it a bit. That's it. So yeah. There's no shortage of YouTubers that try and transition from making YouTube videos into movies. A lot of channels have tried to take that plunge before, but almost every single time it crashes and burns and is always just a fruitless endeavor that is only good for pointing and laughing and shooting spitballs. But there is one channel that has done it extraordinarily well. Raka Raka. Danny and Michael Filippo. I hope I didn't butcher their last name. I'm never entirely sure how to say their last name. They made a horror movie called Talk to Me, which I think is an absolute slapper of a film. And now they've just released their second horror film, their second A24 horror flick, Bring Her Back, which I actually think is even better than Talk to Me. It's a very different film. It doesn't try and do the same things. It is still a horror film, but it's more akin to something like Hereditary, and I think a lot of people are going to be making that comparison with this film. And as all of you know, Hereditary is like my favorite horror movie. I think that is a masterpiece all the way up until like the last 10 minutes where I think it kind of eats some major ass. It just goes into like really big horror cliches, which a lot of people really don't like my take on. That's a bit of a spicy take for me, but I just really don't like the last 10 minutes. It falls into just like a Blumhouse schlock fest at the end, even though I like the reason it happens, and I also like the actual final like last couple scenes. But where they just go through like the haunted house of like banging head on wall, naked dude with winky out, fucking wiener hanging. Like, I think that was a little lame. But I still think Hereditary is one of the best horror films in general. And Bring Her Back feels a lot like Hereditary did, where it's not trying to like jump scare you and get you with like a boo, you've been startled, get spooked, loser. It's going for like a very slow, constant anxiety building, tension, like unnerving, disturbing experience. It does it, I think, really, really well. It's a movie mainly focused on grief and coping with the loss of a loved one. I think it's actually like a really thought-provoking film, which I didn't expect at all going into this. Talk to Me I thought was a really good movie, but it's pretty simple. They have a haunted hand, basically, that they can dap up and take a addicting journey into the spirit realm and get possessed for a little while and then snap right back into it until something goes awry. This, though, was very, very different. And I really appreciate that they didn't just try and do the same thing again. You know, that was so good, I'll just try it a second time type deal. So to break it down, Bring Her Back is about a brother and sister who just lost their father in a very traumatic way. The sister is visually impaired. She can see shapes and lights, but not much beyond that. And they are now put in foster care of a woman who had a daughter that she recently lost. And she also has another kid staying with her in the foster program. And things are a little off about this woman, Laura. She's really sweet, like really nice, but in a way that's off-putting. The acting in this movie I actually thought was phenomenal. So when you have a character like Laura who's like really bubbly and like, oh, you got a boo-boo, do you need me to kiss it? I'll do anything to make anyone happy. Like it's supposed, like everything she's saying is really nice and caring, but you can tell there's something very sinister about her. And as it continues to progress, she's very manipulative. So Laura... Hello, Io. I know. It was a good movie, wasn't it? You didn't get to see it. But I'm sure you can feel my excitement for the film. Point is, the acting is great and it helps you get invested in the characters. Like, that's what I'm getting at here, but I want to get into it more, like, deeper into the spaghetti and meatballs. So, spoiler warning here. I've been really enjoying doing these reviews while talking about spoilers, just fucking freeing the nipple and letting all the thoughts out here. So, Laura, I think, is a character. She's obviously the villain, but it's a villain that you can really kind of almost understand to a certain degree. She's lost her daughter. That is one of the worst things that can happen to a parent. And she will do anything for the chance to see her daughter again. What parent wouldn't? And she's stumbled across these videotapes that have some kind of satanic ritual that can transfer the soul of like a demon, or a demon can transfer the soul of a lost loved one into another body. So she's watching these tapes and learning how the process goes, which is why she has the other child there, Ollie. He's not part of the foster program, or at least he's not supposed to be, and she's putting the demon inside of his body so that way he can take her daughter's soul and put it inside the body of the sister. Her name is Piper. It's a plot line that we've seen explored before. Like, I have seen horror movies with a similar concept, but not executed this well. Because this film does what those fail to do. It actually makes you care a lot and has a lot to say about grief in general. Plus, it's shot really well, so there's some very creative scenes here and some really good gore and grossness to it that makes it just feel kind of like almost like squeamish at times, especially with Ollie. Like, there's a scene where Ollie's like biting on a knife and his skin is tearing as the brother Andy is watching, horrified, wondering what the fuck is going on with this kid. And it presents to you a good mystery. Though, I think most people from the title of the film and immediately upon seeing these tapes will connect the dots of what the mother Laura is trying to do here. It doesn't matter, because that's not the actual, like, big discovery of the mystery per se. I think it's pretty obvious from the jump once that's established, which is early on. It's a matter of how do we stop it. She's really good at gaslighting, manipulating Piper and Andy and putting them against each other, where she starts to like frame Andy for like abusing her and kind of separates the two of them, so it puts this barrier up, so it makes it hard for Andy, who starts to get the sense that something's wrong after seeing everything Ollie's doing. Like, it is just done so well. And it's not a film that's like super slow with like glacial pacing where it feels like nothing's happening except for like trauma dumping back and forth or anything. The film is constantly moving and it's showing you disturbing imagery and disturbing scenes. Like I mentioned, Ollie with the knife, or another scene where Ollie's getting like more and more swollen, like he's starting to like fucking puff up, like he's about to explode like an Elden Ring enemy any moment now. And then he gets like really hungry, just gluttonous. So he starts like eating his own flesh, like tearing it from the bone. He starts like eating the wood countertop. And I think it was pretty great. There were a couple people in the theater I heard audibly go like, "ooh," during a couple of those scenes. So it's definitely eliciting the response the directors wanted here. I really think another thing that helped them a lot when it comes to those scenes is how they're filmed. Like, it's just so meticulous, and it, like, they linger on it, just letting it, like, marinate, letting you stew on what you're seeing, and just how, like, gross and uncomfortable it is. I just really think this movie is like a full-blown banger. I was very impressed with this movie. I also think there's a lot to, like, chew on here. Not even making, like, a joke calling back to, like, the countertop scene. I mean, like, there is really, like, a lot in this that isn't just spoon-fed to you, even though you know Laura's intention. She's studied these tapes, and she is now trying to put into practice this ritual of transferring a soul into another body so she can be reunited with her daughter that was gone too soon from her. There's a lot that happens that there's, like, breadcrumbs that you can start to piece together other things. For example, was Andy being drugged by Laura? We see, like, this creatine, she pours it out towards the end of the film when she's told, or when she finds out a social worker's about to visit, and we have seen Andy, like, passing out and, like, drooling all over himself in his sleep, and he's, like, wetting the bed and stuff like that. And you can write that off as, like, maybe trauma from seeing his father pass away in such a horrifying fashion. But then when you see that quick, literally, like, 2-second, like, blurb of her pouring out creatine when trying to clean up the place for the social worker, you start to ask, why would she do that? Well, maybe she drugged him. Like, there's just so much like that in this film. And it doesn't follow the path that you think it's going to follow. Like, I just think it's such a good movie. I was very impressed. I don't think it's perfect, though. And here I want to get into my biggest complaint. And unfortunately, just like Hereditary, it's a bit of the ending. At the end of the film, I do find that it was a bit underwhelming how, after everything Laura has done for this ritual, she eventually just decides she can't go through with it. Now, I think it's great that Piper herself, like, fought back and was, like, actively, you know, defying Laura and trying to save herself, but ultimately what happens is Laura just can't do it, because she's supposed to mimic the death of how her daughter passed, which was drowning. So she is trying to drown Piper, and then after getting scratched, she just can't do it anymore. It's too much for her. After she's already killed a bunch of people and done unforgivable things, she now at the very end backs out of it. And then Piper escapes, and then the ritual is kaput, the demon gets expelled, that kind of thing. I still think it's a nice conclusion. I think it's a great ending, but I couldn't help but feel a little underwhelmed to watch her just decide, all right, we're pumping the brakes, we're done. Like, it makes sense. The reason she did that makes total sense, because she watched her daughter drown, and now she is actively drowning this girl that reminds her of her daughter. So it's a very hard thing for her to do, and you can see her struggling with that as she's doing it, but she's still, like, committed to doing it, and she has still done all of this planning for so long to do it, killed so many people for it, and then at the very end not going through with it. It just feels like, I don't know, I would have liked, you know, Piper to overcome this obstacle and defeat Laura, or some kind of, like, karmic justice for Laura, which I thought they were kind of building to when it came to what happened with Andy. But I don't know, I just couldn't help but feel like that wasn't amazing there, but everything else around it was. So it's not like a massive complaint, and by no means does it ruin the movie or even take away from the film. It's just my only, like, criticism of it. But yeah, I think Bring Her Back is an absolute must-watch for horror fans. I would comfortably put this up here with something like a Hereditary. I did really like it a lot. I don't think it's as good as Hereditary, but I think it's definitely in a conversation with it, at least for my personal, you know, horror movie top films of the modern age. So yeah, that's really about it. So yeah. This is the second time this year already that I have been surprised to go into a film expecting it to be irredeemable, nearly unwatchable garbage, only to walk away pleasantly surprised that it was a decent film. First time was with the Hard Eyes Killer movie, and now this time it's the new Blumhouse flick, Drop. I didn't think this had a chance. I was making fun of this movie on stream quite a bit after watching the trailer because I think the concept is so silly. It's about some I actually just hit like a little sheep bah when I went for that. Man, it's crazy how in recent times I've been having a lot of flubs like that. The movie is about some bad guys airdropping some bad things onto a woman's phone while she's out on a date. And then it becomes a mystery of why are they doing this? And why do they want to hurt my family if I don't follow along with their airdrop instructions? Well, which evolves to text message instructions. Like, to me, that just seems so fucking dumb. Like, what's next? A horror movie about crypto where they find a ghost on the blockchain? Like, this spirit is in the white papers and all of a sudden it starts to haunt someone's boners? Like, it's just stupid. Like, I hate the idea of it. But somehow this movie takes it and actually makes it really interesting. I enjoyed watching this film. Now, side note, before even talking about this movie, giving my review of it, the theater tonight was packed. Just filled to the brim with human beings. Packed like fucking sardines in there. I haven't seen my local theater like that since, the Avengers. It was unbelievable. And I know they weren't there to see Drop, I'll tell you that much. It's the goddamn Minecraft movie. I already know it. Because there are people there already dropping memes. Like, it's cool that people are so excited, but I see all these videos of, like, destruction and pandemonium at the Minecraft showings where everyone just starts yelling and screaming for every meme, throwing popcorn, someone brought in, like, a live chicken, someone body slammed a security guard. Like, it's just havoc and chaos. And tonight, I got to see the theater at max capacity out the wazoo with just this wall of meat waiting to watch Minecraft. Anyway, though, let's talk about Drop. So, as I said, the concept is this lady has gone through a very traumatic experience in her past, and now she's finally getting out into the dating world. She's got a date with a man she's met from an app, and they go to a fancy restaurant, and while on this date, she gets some really interesting memes airdropped to her on her phone during the date, and it's really disruptive, and it's kind of creepy. And then it evolves into something sinister when the person airdropping it instructs them that they must kill their date, or else her son will be killed. So then it becomes a thriller about her trying to keep her son alive by doing what the bad guys are saying to do, while also trying to piece together who in this fucking restaurant is doing this. Now, the movie doesn't do anything new, but it does what it wants to well. It's even shot really well. I didn't expect any kind of, like, decent cinematography or anything, but they kind of went hard for some of the shots here. Even though I don't think they needed to, they still did just for the sake of it, which was cool. It helped make the movie even more stylistic and fun. But like I said, it doesn't do anything new from, like, a storytelling perspective or anything that happens in here being super unique. But it is a similar vibe to something like Phone Booth, which I really, really liked. I don't think it's as good as Phone Booth, but it has that same feeling, and I appreciated that. It does a good job of putting a lot of moving parts here and gets you invested enough in this date and what she's going through, where she has to balance, like, keeping her son alive by doing what these bad guys want her to do, while also making sure her date doesn't leave, because if he leaves, her son dies. So it's like this balancing act where she's trying to keep it all together and she can't tell anyone what's happening, so she has to try and keep her date there even through all of this, because if he leaves, her son dies. So it does a good job. But I will say, you have to really suspend some disbelief for some of this, because throughout the film, she's leaving her date in the dust multiple times. Like, she's gone for like 5-10 minutes sometimes, like excusing herself to the bathroom. She has her date go on like a fucking scavenger hunt looking for a watch. It's a complete disaster, yet he sticks around the entire time, whereas most sensible people would be like, okay, I'm out of here. There's clearly something wrong here, and his character even points it out multiple times, saying like, okay, this is getting weird. And at one point, he even does, like, he closes out the bill, he pays for the meal, and he is leaving, but then she convinces him to stay, and he stays again through all of this, which continues to happen, whereas reasonably you would expect him to have left, because he'd be like, okay, this is a dangerous person here, this person is unhinged, if I continue with this, I might be, at the end of the night without my kidney or some shit. But he stays, and it is a bit of a stretch how she is able to keep him hooked here on this date through all this. But it's not the biggest deal. Like, I didn't ruin it for me. It just, sometimes you'd be like, okay, that's a little much. There's no way he'd stay after that, but he does. Now, I do like the way the film is written. It's not too obvious what's going on here or who's doing it. It presents you with a lot of moving parts and a lot of things to keep track of. Also, the date's not like a lobotomite, like he is a smart guy who picks up on some pretty subtle things that have gone wrong too. So it is a pretty well written film in that regard, but the final act is a huge ass pull. Let's get into spoilers. People have been saying they want me to talk more about spoilers when it comes to these reviews, so spoiler warning, here it comes. When she does figure out who at this restaurant is keeping their peepers on her, because throughout the film it's like nearly omniscient. Like whoever is texting her and airdropping her these things can hear and see everything she's doing everywhere in this facility. She eventually finds out who it is, and she sits down to confront him, and he just vomits everything. It is an exposition overload. He explains all of the motives behind it right to her face, and he is a full-blown fucking red alert fedora tipping Redditor. This dude, he even says, I shit you not, I'm playing chess and you're playing like Yahtzee. As he's going over like how he's been 2 steps ahead of her this whole time, this and that. Well, surprise, surprise, turns out she pulls a fast one on him, the tables turn, and now it turns into like this pseudo-action film where there's still this ticking clock where her kid is still on the hook to be murdered at home because the bad guy still has a bad guy there. So there's clearly an amount of time she has to get the police over there to save her son while also surviving this guy who now pulls a gun out on her, and now she's like kind of running away from him, and he does like classic movie villain stuff where he's like holding the gun at her and he continues to just fucking vomit, like trauma dumping his own shit onto her. And she eventually turns things around, and that's when you see that shot from the trailer where she like blows open the glass, and it's like an airlock opening in space. Everyone just gets sucked out. That's when that happens, and I think that whole scene was just pretty bad. But what followed after was a really huge ass pull, because before that happened, he did call the other guy. Well, he got a call from the other guy and told him, kill the kid and her sister who was babysitting. So once that call gets locked in, she only has like a couple of minutes to go from that restaurant to her house. Now, this restaurant is on the top floor of a very high building, and she is not that close to her house, so how the fuck would she go from that restaurant there? And she does it herself. She has the police called by her date, but she herself takes her car and fucking floors it there, and you see a bunch of scenes of her like weaving out of traffic and trying to get there in time. And somehow she does, before the bad guy kills the kid or the babysitter. Like, there's a couple of scenes to explain that the babysitter, like, fights back, kind of, against this trained assassin. Like she hits him with, like, a vase, and then she closes a door, and he can't get into the door. She bites his arm. And then she even gets shot by the guy, but it was a non-fatal shot. The kid's able to escape, and then somehow the mom's able to get there in, I guess, 5 minutes. Like, the passage of time there was so messy that it was really just kind of sad, because everything else that preceded this like last final act was pretty solid. Like, all of it pretty believable, pretty well written. But this at the end is like, okay, we've really kind of gone off the rails here. There is no way there was enough time for her to go from there to here and still keep everyone safe and then still beat the bad guy. You know what I mean? So that was a little rough. But everything else I actually thought was pretty solid. And it's not even that I hate the final act, it's just, it was a lot sloppier than everything that preceded it. It then also stopped doing all the cool shots and cool cinematography and just fell into like a really generic, formulaic, like action piece. But everything else was good. Overall, I enjoyed watching Drop. I thought this was going to be trash, but I thought it might be fun bad. Turns out it's neither trash nor is it fun bad, it's just a pretty fun movie. So, that was cool. That's really about it. So, yeah. I don't think anyone out there is surprised to hear that the Until Dawn movie is not good. But I do think you'll be surprised to hear that I'm getting a little haircut soon. Nothing like drastic or anything, just trimming some of the dead ends, which I haven't done in a long time. But anyway, about the Until Dawn movie, from the very first trailer it was clear this is going to have pretty much nothing in common with the game that it's based on. I've been screaming it and creaming it till I've been blue in the dick, but if you're going to be making a live-action adaptation of a video game, you've got to at least try and make it somewhat respectful to the source material. There's endless examples to pull from of movies and shows that completely miss the mark because they just decide that they know what's best for the property. and have no idea what the game that it's based on is even about, like the Halo TV series. I'm not here to just regurgitate that. I only mention that because Until Dawn falls victim to the same thing here. However, I will say, to this movie's credit, the concept they come up with, while not really present in the game, is still a fun idea, where these characters, they go into this spooky house and they've got to survive until dawn. And they just keep getting killed over and over and over again. And they try and piece together the mystery while trying to survive the night so they can finally break the loop. It's more of like a Groundhog Day or like a Happy Death Day kind of thing, similar. Not really like the Until Dawn game, where if you've played it, you know you don't just endlessly retry, dying over and over again. In fact, it's all about your choices, trying to keep characters alive, and if you fuck up, if you shit the bed, you could permanently lose the character. That is not really present here. The only thing they borrowed from the game is the idea of the butterfly effect. But how about for people that haven't played the game? Will they like this? I think they'll like half of it. And admittedly, I liked half of it too. It's the first half of the film, where it does try and do its own thing. They actually have Peter Stormare, I think that's how you say his name, in this movie in a role. He was in the game too. I thought that was cool. He's not really utilized that much. I'm gonna have to get into spoilers. Spoiler warning. Alright, now that's out of the way. The first half of this movie is actually enjoyable. Like, it is a fun film. So they spend the first half, and there's recognizable things about it from the game, but if you haven't played the game, I think you'll probably just think that it's cool. They go here, and now they're stuck in this loop where they're getting chased by all kinds of different bad things, Sometimes it's a slasher movie where they're being hunted by this, basically fucking Bane, and he's slaughtering them left and right, and then they reset, and then this time it's not that guy wandering around, like fucking Jason Voorhees. Then it's more of a supernatural thing where they're getting flown around and, possessed and shit like that. And then there's another one where it's more of almost like SCPs that they're being hunted by. It's cool that it kept switching up what was hunting and killing them. The deaths were satisfying, sometimes even just shocking, but in a silly way. So one of the times they just start randomly combusting, just spontaneous combustion, and I mean that in the truest textbook definition. They just start spontaneously combusting, like fucking meat balloons that are popping out of nowhere, which I thought, the theater actually laughed at that. And I'm sure they knew when they were making that scene that it would be silly and fun, and that's when the movie was at its best, when it kept doing these wacky character deaths, being creative with the character deaths, and they were still getting little tidbits of lore about what they're stuck in and what they need to do to get out of it, about needing to survive until dawn, otherwise they're trapped forever in a permanent loop. They become part of the night. That's when the movie was at its best, and it was enjoyable. Yes, there were cheap jump scares. Obviously, there's going to be cheap jump scares, but the characters are absolutely horrible from start to finish. The characters are so one-dimensional. They only have one character trait, and that's it, and that's all they ever do. And now, let's get to the second half, where this movie completely falls apart, and I think even if you haven't played the game, you're going to hate the second half. This movie gets to a point where I think they just got really tired of making it, or maybe they started running out of budget. So they do 3 nights, and it's fun. It's a fun little horror flick for those 3 nights. They're showing you all these deaths and the things that they're starting to learn. And then, after the 3rd night, it skips to the 13th night, the last night. So it literally just goes, here's a death, and then they wake up and one of the characters says, how many nights has it been? How long have I been out? You've been out for 5 nights. And then one of the other characters, Nina's no, it's actually been 13. Check the book. So they check, confirm it's been 13 nights. No one ever survives past 13. So if they die here, that's the end. That's game over. So it literally just skips through all of the interesting shit it was doing to get to the very end. So that way it goes to a glacial halt. Now all of a sudden nothing is happening because it's their last night. And it is a slog. Holy fuck, it's horrible. And they had the chutzpah to have one of the characters be oh wait, didn't I record something earlier? Because one of the characters, Abe, had recorded when they first got there. He checks his phone, it turns out he recorded all the other nights. So then you get all the shit you saw in the trailer with that bug in Clover's face, and then that giant Spirited Away guy who's going this at the camera. Well, all of that was recorded on his phone, and we get a little montage of it for 45 seconds. You don't actually see any of that throughout the film. So instead, it fast forwards through all of that. The only thing that was interesting about it, to get to the second half, where it tries desperately to throw this Hail Mary of somehow loosely tying it into the Until Dawn lore, like the game lore, and it does it really, really bad. If you haven't played the game, maybe you won't be insulted by this, but having played the game, man, why did you even try with what they did here? Also, on their final night, pretty much everything they had learned meant nothing. Like, this was never a gradual buildup of how they solved it and how they outsmarted and then survived. What ends up happening on the last night is they look at those videos, and then the final video there has one of the characters being like, I'm going to follow him, because Peter Stormare came through and she was filming him, and I guess he didn't see her, even though she was kind of just like out in the open filming it, literally like vlogging it. And so she sets the phone down and then follows him, and that was like the last video, and they're like, all right, let's go follow her. But they just like randomly start stumbling across the right way to go, not because they learned anything or adapted or evolved or got better at handling the horrors. They just got really lucky and conveniently just ass over tomato cans fell into the right path. Like, even finding her who followed that guy, she didn't get very far, but they happened to stumble across her. So, like, there was never any emotional moments at all in this film. Everything was so fucking flat. But the thing it was doing well with, like, the creative deaths and, like, being over the top and silly with the deaths, they completely abandoned for the entire second half. So then it's just really boring. And then all of its problems really start to show, because now all of a sudden it's trying new things that don't work. Because it's not building tension. You now know these characters, they might die for real, but they're not even really playing with that. It's very clear they're not going to. And the final confrontation with Dr. Hill, that's Peter, is so comical. So, you remember how I mentioned spontaneous combustion? Well, what causes that, the catalyst, is drinking the water there. So in the final showdown with the big bad, the big villain, Peter, he shows up with a cup of coffee. First of all, he's drinking the coffee with no problem. It's already been established the water makes you blow up. Why isn't he blowing up? I kind of mental gymnastics this explanation in my head, so take it with a grain of salt, but I just cooked up the theory that maybe boiling the water cooks out the explosive elements of it, or he completely leaves the town, like goes across state lines to get clean water and then brews his coffee there and brings it back. Anyway, Clover is talking with him and he's monologuing, the most cliche shit ever. He's monologuing and he's being all over the top and exaggerated with it. So he's turning his back to her and he's like monologuing at a wall. Trauma. It's a very powerful fear. Very powerful. And our main character Clover notices a leaky pipe dripping water, so she moves his coffee cup over it, gets some of the water in it, moves it back, and then he's done monologuing, takes a sip and blows up. And then they all escape and they live happily ever after. Kind of. During this conversation, there are things that they feed you narratively that kind of sets this movie up as a fucking prequel to the Until Dawn game, loosely. It's rough. It is so rough. I don't understand why they thought that would hit. I don't know what they thought they were cooking. It's just not very good. Like, the first half, I was having fun with. If they had just done that for the whole film's runtime, I think this would have been like an enjoyable movie. I think it would have been a fine flick. Nothing special, but it would have been fun if it's just these characters getting gradually better at surviving all of the different horror that's thrown at them until they can finally fucking survive the whole night. That would have been cool. I would have rather seen that as opposed to what they did here, where they did a few nights and then fast forwarded to the very end and tried to like fill in the blanks a little bit. It was just dumb. Like, the whole second half it's so boring. It's so excruciatingly boring. And like I mentioned, there's nothing emotional about it. Like, you don't care about any of these characters here. It's impossible to get invested in them because they don't do anything. They don't have any development. They're hardly fleshed out at all. They don't get anything to do except making bad decision after bad decision after bad decision and then eventually just getting lucky. So it's just, there's nothing to like about the second half. It was a huge fucking blunder, a big fumble, because, as I mentioned, the concept itself is fine. I don't understand why you'd even bother calling this an adaptation of Until Dawn in the first place, since you didn't do that. Really, the whole thing was just kind of a mess after the first half. That was a very weird set of decisions there for the film. So, not very good, but not as shitty as it could have been, I suppose. There's definitely worse video game adaptations out there, but this is definitely in like the bottom of the barrel, lower echelon of those, because we also get some very good video game adaptations from time to time now. This is not one of those, though. Anyway, that's really about it. So, yeah. Easily the most common question I've been asked over the last week during streams is, have I seen Final Destination Bloodlines, and if so, did I like it? The answer to both those questions is yes, and I am shocked by how many times people have asked me. I'm pretty sure I've been getting asked that question more times than people ask Grok to explain a tweet to them. Not that it bothers me or anything, I'm just kind of surprised, because I didn't plan on reviewing it. It was a movie I liked, I had a great time, it was refreshing, it was simple, it was fun, but I just don't have a whole lot to say about it. It's just a good movie, and it's exactly what you want for a Final Destination film. I'm just kind of surprised is all, so I'll go ahead and give you my thoughts on the film. It's a very rare case where Hollywood desperation leads them to dust off an old franchise and try and polish it up for the modern version, and it's not trash. That doesn't happen often. Usually, when they try and revive a franchise that's been dormant for a long time, they give you this frankenfuck of nonsense that nobody wants. It pleases not only no fans, but no modern audience that they're trying to capture either, and just usually ends in disaster. That is not the case with Final Destination Bloodlines. It knows exactly what it needed to be. A self-aware gore fest that's very creative with its kills and gives you just enough story to get you from point A to point B to have you care to a certain extent. You never really care that much about the characters because you don't get a whole lot of meat with them. You're never going to be like overly sentimental where you're like on bated breath hoping, praying that that character doesn't meet an unfortunate fate. Like, it's not like an ASPCA commercial that's pulling on your heartstrings watching these characters and really hoping that things are working out. But it's enough where you want to see them maybe overcome death. So the whole story you basically get in the trailer. This lady had a premonition a long time ago while at a restaurant that, is about to just fucking blow up. Everyone was going to die. It was going to be a huge catastrophe. She had the premonition. She stopped it, saving all those lives. And death, well, he doesn't like to be cheated like that. So over the last few decades, he's been killing everyone that was saved by her and also any family they may have had because they shouldn't have been born. And now we follow that extended family. The woman who had that premonition is now a grandmother, and she's like isolated herself from society, trying to like keep her family safe and understand how to, beat death in this arm wrestling match that they've been engaged in for so long. That's basically the entire story in a nutshell. It's them trying not to die. If you've seen Final Destination, you know exactly how this goes, which is a good thing. That's not a complaint at all. I am happy they didn't try and reinvent the condom with this. It works really well, and what it does very, very strongly. The creativity in these kills and the way that it like plays with your expectations as a viewer. Like, there are times where there's a character who's like mixed up in what looks to be a fatal situation where it's getting like all fucking crazy and out of control, like a Rube Goldberg machine of death. And it's constantly like toying with you about like, what's going to happen next? Well, how is he going to die? Wait, will he die? Is she going to meet a fate right here? Like, it's really well done. It's just so creative that it keeps you like hooked on it. Because it's hard to predict like how the disaster is going to unfold, even though you know it's coming because they're setting you up for it. Like, in the very opening scene, like a penny gets thrown by a kid, and somehow that penny leads to, fucking mangled corpses and all kinds of shit. It's just, I really appreciated how over the top they got with it and how elaborate they set it up. They did an extraordinary job in that department. The most important department for this movie. Creative deaths. Because that's what it's really all about for Final Destination's Bloodlines. That's exactly what it needed to be. Now, I don't think that it's always great with the deaths. I think there was this over-reliance on just having things fall on people, like spontaneously having something fall and crush someone. That happened quite a bit, just like smashing someone to pieces randomly. I think that was a little overused, and I think in some cases it was used as more of like a joke or a gag, but that does happen quite a bit. I would have liked to see them, continue to flex their Imagineering muscles to come up with more fun, less obvious ways to kill somebody there, but it's not that big of a deal. The only thing that I actually just didn't like that much, and this is a big spoiler, so spoiler warning. Alright, spoiler warning's done. I didn't really like the ending. Like, the very end of the movie, I wasn't super, enthusiastic about. And it's not because I think that it needs a happy ending or anything. I would never expect that from Final Destination, really. But I just didn't like the way they did it. It just felt kind of lazy, like a little too cheesy. And it's a movie that's very self-aware. Like, obviously, they know what they're doing with the ending here, where, they thought they beat death, outsmarted it, but turns out not quite. And then, all of a sudden, our main character and her brother, they're now running away from a train that's derailed, that's coming right at them. They're running away as best they can. They get away, it seems, and then all of a sudden, two logs come and just smash them. And it's like, okay, I get it. That is silly. But to me, it's just almost a little too silly in that context there, if that makes sense. I feel like there was a couple options. They could have tied it back to what the grandmother said at the very beginning of the film, where she was like, perhaps my gift of premonition passed on to you. I thought that's where they were going, where that scene after they get smashed would be a premonition she has, and then she prevented that, and then it starts the cycle of death all over again to get death on their trail. I feel like that could have been a good option, but another option they had is just make it a more creative death at the end. If they're still on the hook, instead of just having it once again be this spontaneous smashing, I would really rather they not do that and instead make it another elaborate, fun, creative one. You know what I mean? So I just felt like a little deflated with the way that it wrapped up at the very end there. But it's not that big of a deal. Again, it's not a huge complaint or anything. This was a movie that was a lot of fun. It knew exactly what it needed to do, and it did exactly what it needed to do well. So yeah, anyway, good movie. That's about it. See ya. Here's another movie I wasn't planning on reviewing, but because I keep getting asked a lot about it, I'll go ahead and give it a little review here. It's the new Predator movie, Killer of Killers. It's the animated, almost pseudo-anthology in the Predator universe. I put my peepers on this puppy right when it dropped, and I liked it. I thought it was fine. I just didn't have a whole lot to say about it, so I didn't bother spitting out a review on all of my deep thoughts in regards to Killer of Killers. But I get asked about it pretty often during streams since it's come out, so might as well just give the review on it anyway. I enjoyed it. I don't think it's perfect, but I thought for what it was a fun ride. So I thought it looked good, and I thought the action was good, and it's mainly just action. It's not that deep. There's a lot of nods to previous Predator movies, which I appreciate. There's definitely some problems with the story, though, which I guess I can talk about. Also, I hate the name. I said it when they first dropped the trailer. The name Killer of Killers, I think, is extremely silly. It reminds me of those Facebook Joker memes. Fuck the fuckers before they fuck you. That kind of shit. That's the kind of vibe the name gives, but it's kind of charming in its own way because it fits the vibe of the movie. So basically, the movie tells a pseudo-anthology, 3 separate short stories. One, a Viking woman who loses all of those closest to her because of a predator attacking them. The second being in feudal Japan with a Ronin who, after trying to get revenge on his brother, gets interrupted by a predator's strike, and then he has to fight that. And then the third being a pilot in World War II, and then it's a dogfight between him and a predator and their spacecraft. And the stories aren't bad. There's a couple of emotional beats in the first two. The third one, I think, is by far the worst. It's kind of devoid of, anything. It almost feels like a complete joke. Like, the pilot is supposed to have these moments that are supposed to be, intense, but he's, really quippy, and it doesn't seem like he's taking anything seriously while hunting and being hunted by the predator. He's not even really hunting him, to be fair. He's just kind of trying to survive. But even, his survival is just him quipping like he's a fucking Marvel character. And, when people close to him die, he doesn't, he brushes it off real quick. It, doesn't really affect him. I don't know. That one I thought was really weak. The action was still cool there, but the actual narrative beats of that part I thought were bad. The first two I thought did a good job. The Viking mother who loses her son and has to fight against this, giant predator. This guy's been boofing his muscle milk. She fights him, and it's a really flashy, fun fight. And then the one in feudal Japan where the Ronin squares off against the Predator, that's a tag team match against that one. That one's also very cool, and I actually thought the narrative in that was very interesting. Then it ultimately leads to the finale where these 3 characters come together and they are supposed to fight to the death in order to fight the Predator King. And honestly, I don't love the finale. Like, it's not terrible, like, it's still flashy, it's still fun, but you have these three characters that have been on ice for however many years, hundreds of years, and now all of a sudden they're thrown into the Thunderdome here to fight each other, to then fight the Predator King, and somehow they band together, even though they can't understand each other's languages. They overcome their differences, they team up, then they fight the Predator King, they win against him, and then somehow that pilot from World War II knows how to fly the Predator spacecraft to get them out of there. It just feels really rushed. It feels kind of ridiculous, even in the context of an animated film. I know how fucking absurd that sounds for me to call something in an animated film like preposterous, but it is, I think, a bit wacky here. I think it goes a little Insano style to its own detriment. Like, if they had just done the three stories here, the three short stories, for the whole movie, I would have been much happier with that. Like, give them even more time, because the first two, I think, did a great job with the character development and the story they tell there. Third one, maybe if you cooked that a little bit longer, you could have had something more compelling there, too. But overall, those three stories, I think, were really enjoyable. The finale, though, I don't know, I was just left kind of disappointed. It's a really cool concept. Like, I do really like the concept, and I do want to see more from, like, the Predator home world and, like, their culture, because it seems a little wishy-washy on how much honor actually means to them, because it kind of just changes all the time. Like, sometimes they'll prove themselves so formidable, but that the Predators will drop down to a knee, madame, tipping fucking fedora, that kind of thing, or even, like we've seen in the past, like, kind of just let them go, or even try and make the fight as fair as possible. At the end of this movie here, though, they've kind of wiped their whole ass with that entire thing. Like, even when they are victorious and they escape on the ship, the Predator King sends, like, the entire fleet after them. And also, like, where are they even gonna go? The World War II pilot doesn't even know when or where they are in the fucking universe. Like, I don't know. It was just, I didn't really like the ending. It felt extremely rushed. I think it would have been far stronger to just have the three short stories and just stretch them out a little bit longer, add more to them in order for it to be the whole movie. And maybe you could do, like, some kind of tie-in, because I do think showing, like, the Predator world with, like, every strong warrior on ice is really cool. I think there's a lot of potential there, and I'm sure that's going to be explored going forward. But I just didn't really love the finale. Even the action in the finale, I think, was weaker than all the action they had shown in the three short stories. At the end, it felt more like just doing anything they can to tie this into whatever their plans are with this IP going forward, as opposed to giving, like, a proper conclusion to the movie that they were making here, like the story they were telling and building up to. So I do think that fell kind of flat. But overall, I think Killer Killers was good. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. I'm happy we're getting so many high-quality animations coming out in the recent years here. It's great. I like to see that. Hope to see more. I hope it continues. So yeah, I mean, I think it was good. Hopefully Predator Badlands is also good. I will say there were some things in the trailer I didn't love, but this made me more optimistic for it. You know what, there is actually something I wanted to dive in on, and it's not even particularly just about this movie, but Killer Killers has a 97% on Rotten Tomatoes, at least it did as of June 8th, making it the highest rated Predator franchise entry ever. And this is something Matt and I were talking about 2 days ago. It feels like everything that comes out that's good or even great is always, like, cherished and worshipped as the best to ever come out. Just think about how frequently you've seen these kind of headlines over, like, the last 5 years. A good movie will come out and all of a sudden it's God's gift to cinema. This is an extraordinary piece of art here. Longlegs, scariest film ever made. The highest rated Rotten Tomatoes debut for a horror film ever. And then 2 months later, you see those same accolades recycled on a totally different horror movie, also like a 99% on Rotten Tomatoes. It just feels like we are in an era where it just has to be extreme. Like, something can't just be good or even great. It has to be the best. We have to glaze it like it is the best that has ever existed, and everything that came before it is lesser. I just think it's a little absurd. Killer of Killers. Is it a 97% on Rotten Tomatoes good? No. I definitely don't think so. Even though I liked it, I really enjoyed it, I definitely don't think it's up there with some of, like, the all-time greats. Is it the best movie in the Predator franchise? No. I also don't think so either. Like, it's good, and because it's good in the current day and age, that means it is pushed to its absolute limits in terms of praise. Like, it is just glazed out the wazoo to the point where it's just the highest rated. I know this is a pretty worthless rant here. It has nothing to do with the actual movie or anything. I just wanted to briefly mention it because this seems to be pretty commonplace these days about, like, something of quality comes out and then all of a sudden everyone's saying, like, it's actually the best ever. Sometimes I think they're absolutely right. Example, Andor. Andor, I think, is the best thing Star Wars has, like, ever had. I think Andor is one of those rare cases where all of that glaze, I think, is, like, super appropriate. I think they're, like, right on the money with it. It is that good. Anyway, though, I'll stop yapping. Killer of Killers was a good animated film. I enjoyed it. That's about it. See ya. Since Warfare came out, people have been telling me I need to go see it. It's getting high praise across the board. And I'd always claimed I was going to. I'd even said things like, yeah, I'm going tomorrow to see it. Then tomorrow rolled around, and I didn't go and see it. Until today. And boy howdy, what a great movie. I wish I had seen it sooner. It is something special. Now, one of the biggest elements of this film that people have been glazing is how realistic it is. Claiming that it's the most realistic depiction of combat you'll ever see on the big screen. And I can agree with that take. Now, of course, I've never seen combat. The closest thing I've seen to combat is paintball with my boys. But as someone who's never actually experienced it, I can kind of only imagine it based on stories and, like, footage. But even still, this feels so grounded in reality. Like, even just the way they handle the weapons and, like, all of the, like, checks they go through this entire movie, it just, like, that's what I imagine it would be like to have been in a combat scenario like these men were. So, it's a film based on a true story. It takes place in 2006 in Iraq. We follow one platoon as things just go tits up. It becomes a huge firefight and a struggle to survive as this platoon tries to make it out of this house alive. And this isn't like a Hollywood glamorization of combat. Like, there's no music or anything, like they don't have, like, this swelling of emotional tunes with, like, a sad violin that plays, or some kind of, like, triumphant music when they start to, you know, get the upper hand or escape. All of it just feels like you are actually watching a real thing unfold in front of you, and it's really impressive to be able to do that. It is filmed beautifully. Like, the first half of this movie, they have all of the platoon in this house that they occupy, and they're just going through the protocol. So they have one guy on a sniper, and he's just kind of listing out potential people of interest. The group is making a couple of little jokes, but overall they're pretty silent, just doing what they're trained to do, and it actually seems like they're kind of just bored a little bit. So, like, the first half of the movie is slow, just kind of setting this up, and then all of a sudden, grenade comes through the hole, and now it's fucking full throttle. So now they're fighting back against this enemy and strategizing on how they can get out of this, because they are surrounded. And the action here isn't like traditional movie action where you have, like, you know, fucking superheroes where, you know, they're storming out there and they're, like, disarming the bad guys, you know, fucking feeding them their vegetables and doing, like, some acrobatics and really cinematic shit to start shooting tons of people. It's not how it works here. It's not like these soldiers have fucking Deadeye from Red Dead Redemption 2 where they're gonna go through and, like, headshot everyone like you see in other movies or anything. Like, here, most of the, like, shooting is from cover into cover. Like, just suppressing fire, trying to keep the enemy from, like, you know, being able to take shots at them freely as they're crossing somewhere or going to grab someone or something. So, for the majority of the film, you actually don't even see any of the enemies. You just hear the bullets hitting around them, see the bullets hitting around them, and occasionally you'll see them, like, poke out of cover, shoot while the soldiers are in cover, but overall, you're watching them suppress the enemy as opposed to just having, like, a, you know, Gears of War horde mode where tons of enemies are collapsing at once, and now the soldiers are just taking them all out one by one, as, you know, Fortunate Sons plays or something. It's just not that kind of movie. The movie is just so fucking tense. Like, there's only a couple of explosions in this film, but when they happen, you feel him. Like, I jumped out of my seat on the first explosion. That was like the biggest jump scare I've ever had in a movie theater. Like, full stop. And I see like every horror movie ever with the cheapest jump scares. This one was like an authentic holy shit moment. Like, the sound design in this movie was superb, because like not only during the explosions, but they also have like show of force where they'll have like a jet fly pretty low, do like a low flyover to, you know, basically discombobulate everyone in the area, because it's just deafening and it blows through all this smoke and everything. And when that hits, you're like fucking shell shocked by it too. Just like across the board, the way they use sound is just so effective at making you feel the anxiety and like how tense it is. So like when an explosion happens, everyone's like all muffled and shit and like concussed, so like you're not hearing things super clearly. And they have it last for a while. It's not just like a cheap gimmick they use. That goes on for a while, and it's like changing for each different member of the platoon that you start to like follow briefly during these things, because everyone's going through something a little different in this scenario here. And it sounds different. It is so impressive the way they used sound in this film. And also, when soldiers got injured, it was gruesome. And they didn't shy away from showing that kind of trauma and how it affects everyone else around them, as everyone's starting to feel this and everyone's like on edge and starting to panic, but trying their best to, you know, get the fuck out of there and keep it all together. It is just a really special film. I was on the edge of my seat for the vast majority of this movie. So yeah, overall, Warfare was a great film. That's really about it. So yeah.